work, quality leadership must be available for a community to thrive. Fundamental to all these community functions is the climate, and the world is now facing a very real climate crisis. The climate provides us with basic life support, fresh water, fresh air, and nutrient soil by which we feed ourselves, clothe ourselves, and provide shelter. When the climate is disregarded, fire, flood, erosion, pollution, pestilence, extreme temperatures, migrations, and starvation result. These crises came upon us much more rapidly than the predicted 30 to 50 years from now. We now have a health crisis, a crisis in education, a governance crisis, an economic crisis, and a worldview crisis. These crises are completely intertwined and interrelated, each having a cause and effect upon each other. The solution to these crises run from the local to the global and falls on the shoulders of enlightened, responsible individuals who are looking for a way to change the planet for the better. Infrastructure underlies all these basic community functions. This infrastructure is partially hidden from us. We travel through our built environments but really have little awareness of them. The built environment is affected by additional influences. These infrastructure influences are the current built infrastructure, the dynamic application that science and engineering have on technology and infrastructure, the cultural imperative that binds us to our crises. The three infrastructure influences contribute significantly to produce the hidden processes that directly affect the multitude of community decisions. The first infrastructure influence is the built environment itself. It's where we live, work, and play. The infrastructure is made up of roads and freeways and is very automobile dependent. Its structures include strip malls, big box retail, and mile after mile of tract housing. Very little attention is paid to this built environment, and it's considered normal. The infrastructure acts like a giant filter and restricts the perception of other possible configuration of the built-out environment. This filtration prevents an understanding of how the infrastructure in fact impacts and exacerbates the current crises. The infrastructure is dominated by multinational global interest at the expense of the local. The next influence to be considered is the effect of science, engineering, and technology. Science deals with discoveries. Engineering deals with taking these discoveries and turning them into technology, and all of them have an impact on infrastructure. Multinational corporations provide the funding and the objectives of most science that is done, most engineering that is done, and the application of technology to increase profits. The vast majority of workers contribute to the success of these multinational global corporations, usually to the workers' detriment. The last infrastructure influence is probably the most difficult to deal with. Justice is violated by white, male-dominated, privileged, rugged individualist, extremist whose agenda is to dominate cultural influence upon human rights. Justice and the climate crisis must be denied. The social practice at its worst, with all the extremist symbolism, tokens, romanticized heroes, mythology, and distorted history. This practice utterly impedes the community from doing its corrective justice work. Every community is supported by deep ecology. Ecology supplies life support for the community. The community exists within the embrace of its own living ecology as an interplay between evolution and the second law of thermodynamics. Normally, energy is used to do work within the community and for its ecology, then becomes entropy. Energy along the way to entropy creates complexity. This complexity supports the continually evolving life process that provides diverse resources so that the ecology and the community can function. But now, much of the available energy has been diverted to create a complex technological system that directly compete with the ecology system necessary to support life. The ecology becomes disrupted and non-sustainable. Failure is a rapidly approaching reality. The next level of stress imposed upon the community in crisis is extraction. Resource extraction is as old as colonialism itself. Trees, metals, water, and agricultural land are all extracted from a local ecosystem and made scarce. Scarcity is necessary to generate profits. Next is wealth extraction. The built environment is made up of endless miles of retail outlets explicitly designed to efficiently drain every ounce of wealth contained within a community. Extensive media advertising makes artificial scarcity of trivial products. The need created makes sure that the cheap products are then sold at high prices to remove wealth from unsuspecting consumers. Now, information and data are also extracted from the community. This information and data are run through sophisticated artificial intelligence algorithms to generate ways that can further manipulate the community to part with its wealth. This information is not available for the community to analyze and act upon their own problems. Every level of weakness, every level of ignorance is targeted and manipulated in order for the extraction of resources, wealth, and data to continue for profit. This process eventually runs a deficit. The community in crisis reaches a point where it is no longer able to generate wealth in order for this manipulation to continue. There is one more level of atrocity that is perpetrated upon the crisis community: the deal. The deal begins with a keen awareness of the need for more efficiency in the existing built infrastructures. The catalyst for the deal is the developer. The developer easily moves between the multinationalist and the cultural imperatives available in the community. Governments normally do not enter the realm of comprehensive planning. This is left to free market capitalism. The government's role is primarily to rubber stamp what the deal makers come up with. The developer is set to maximize the ability to manipulate the climate crisis and the crisis community for profit. There is little restraint, little accountability, and little transparency or oversight. As a result, the community carbon footprint can be huge. Innovation for the good of the community remains inert. The retail, big box, strip mall, automobile dependent tract housing configuration will continue to replicate and multiply at the climate and community's crisis expense. This interrelated and entangled set of relationships must be taken into account with any attempt to meet the climate crisis and the crisis community. Government officials, both elected and appointed, for the most part are blind to their role functioning within this configuration of relationships. Citizens have become consumers who have abrogated their responsibility. The multinationals have dictated to a large degree. The healthcare system, the education system, have bought and paid for government. They have convinced citizens and consumers alike that they are shining pillars of economic success and dictate a very narrow worldview. It is suggested that power is the prime motivator for anyone attempting to manipulate, control, and take advantage of the climate and community crisis. It is also said that evil arises from the will to power without the courage to be. The courage to stop the evil application of power to communities requires the following: the courage to be a citizen, the courage to be in relation to community. Courage requires power to be channeled to self-interest, rightly understood as community interest. The crisis community must deal with its individualist continuum as it emerges. At one end of the continuum are the white, racist, privileged extremist, the rugged individualist who pursues short-term interest. They seek the preservation and the enhancements of the rights upon which they have a deep and profound and exclusive claim. They follow the will to power, rendering the proximate cause to the climate crisis. At the other end of the continuum are the enlightened individuals who pursue self-interest, rightly understood, for the benefit of the community, following the courage to be. Enlightened individuals must establish the moral ground for action. Action must come from a will to power with the courage to be, based in community good. Action must emerge, and emerge quickly, if the climate crisis yields any understanding at all of what it is to be truly human. Then all humans must realize that all humans are one together, indigenous and responsible to Earth. Ideas must be assembled from as wide a community perspective as possible. An idea cannot exist alone. Ideas are always combined and blended with other ideas. The more diverse the participants' contributing ideas are, the better chance for solutions to difficult problems to emerge. No one individual or group knows what to do. All have meaningful contributions to make. In community, transformation is possible. Communities must have the courage to take on the climate crisis now.
So we